And then the Gospel of St. Barnabas supported the theory of substitution on the cross. Of course, the Gospel of St. Barnabas was written well after 1500 A.D. It is a pious fraud and has no historical value whatsoever. The Quranic teaching is that Christ was not... Now listen to this. See if you can make heads or tails out of this. We will allow Brother Joseph to be the interpreter of the son of a gun. The Quranic teaching is that Christ was not crucified nor killed by the Jews, notwithstanding certain apparent circumstances which produced that illusion in the minds of some of his enemies. Now let me stop just a second and say, what about his friends? They all went around saying the same thing. There's nobody in the first century that didn't have this illusion.
They all took the same drug.
And see, that's why so many modern American Muslim scholars are drawing back from the substitution theory. The reason is they recognize that if you really believe this substitution idea, then in reality, Allah started Christianity by mistake.
Yes. Or by intentional deception.
Maybe, but I mean, if he was only meaning to fool the Jews, he ended up fooling everybody. I mean, think how many, from the Islamic perspective, think how many acts of shirk have been produced by Christianity. And where did it all start? Because Allah made it look so good.
Well, we know, of course, in the Quran that Allah is the greatest of all deceivers. Khair al-Makarena. You know, and so I've actually asked Manu and some of our other Muslim viewers, you know, if what you say about Allah making someone to look like Jesus, let's say Judas, for example, and then the largest religion in the world for the last, well, whatever, the last, say, 1,500 years, I don't know when, I guess Christianity would have become the largest maybe 1,700 years ago. But so whatever. The largest religion in the world today, according to your view, Muslims, of a substitution theory, would have been created by a deception of Allah. And of course, did he not know that over 2 billion people were going to be deceived by his intentional deception to commit, according to Muslims, this terrible and unforgivable sin of shirk? Anyhow, did you have more comments on that, Dr.
No.
But that real quickly is some of the things that you've shared. Shabir Ali, Ahmed Deedat, aside from the rhetorical value of you know, they claimed that back in whenever, the 70s, when Ahmed Deedat debated Josh McDowell, he pulled out the swoon theory just to throw him off guard because he didn't think that was going to be the case. But now you have people like, you know, you're mentioning Shabir Ali going more for a swoon theory. Is that because the evidence, both historically and extra-biblically, and the problematic side of the Islam is forcing them to that position?
That's a good question. I would like to, you know, maybe ask Shabir about that. We debated that subject in Seattle, and you know, I knew that was what his position was. He had defended it in other contexts. But it does seem very, very strange, and it seems very strained to take that perspective in regards to even Surah 4:157. It seems clear to me that Shabir recognizes this is not a mubinun, a perspicuous text in the Quran. And I have to wonder if part of the reason why Shabir takes the position that he does on this is that it's a little bit easier to defend because you can bring up some very odd ideas. I mean, he raises questions about whether people in the ancient world could really know whether someone was dead. And he raises these very off-the-wall quotations where people, you know, were being taken away to be buried, and, you know, they pop up out of their casket and things like that because they didn't have the medical means of checking things the way that we do today, as if somehow this is relevant to the Romans, who were really good at killing people. And this concept of crucifixion, where, like I said, we only have those few people that Josephus mentions, 3 taken down from the cross, and yet still there's death, even at that point, with the best of medical that Rome had to offer. And then, of course, he joins that with, you know, we would go, yeah, but I mean, the spear thrust, how do you survive that? He just dismisses that as a later theological invention, utilizing, and that's what makes Shabir so interesting, is he's a mixture of Islam plus this always left-leaning liberal citations of liberal theologians.
Yeah.
You pick and choose out of those, cobble them together, and you come up with this position.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to respond to if you've never heard it before.
Right, right.
And so maybe the real value to it for him is that it you rarely run into Christians that are prepared for it.
Helps him win debates.
That might be what what's brought it about.
Oh boy. Well, I think we have some more callers. 248-416-1300. This is a live program, Answering Islam, with Dr. James White. By the way, tonight's the last night he'll be with us until.
But this weekend.
Well, yes, we're going to have Jesus or Muhammad.
That's right.
Sam Shimon.
And you're going to fall apart then, too.
Sam Shimon and David Wood will be here in the studio. Praise God.
And those two get along when they're on, because I'm on the same emails with these guys. And, you know, Sam was talking about having to carry David all the time.
Yeah,
and, you know, it's...
you know, what we're going to start here soon is the Answering Islam or the Jesus or Muhammad Comedy Hour. And Sam Shimon and David Wood are going to just go at it with one another.
Yes, they're both great guys. You're going to have some great programs.
Yeah.
You're going to be one tired fella
well,
by the time you get done with all
it's
this.
unclear whether or not they want me to be their host. No, I shouldn't say that. It's unclear whether or not I'll be here tomorrow night and the next, but if I am, praise God. If not, Sam and David, they are the main attraction tomorrow night and Saturday night, and we do hope that you'll tune in Saturday and Sunday night for those Jesus or Muhammad programs. I know you'll be blessed by them. And I've been blessed all week by Dr. James White. I just wanted to say this is the last chance you're going to get to ask the questions from, well, most say the premier Christian debater to Islam in the world today. So I hope you'll take this opportunity to call in 248-416-1300 to our program right now. I think we have another caller waiting on the line. Let's go ahead and take that caller right now. Welcome, you're on the air with Answering Islam.
Hi, Pastor Joseph and Dr. White. This is Manu.
Welcome, Manu. Welcome to our program once again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Regarding what Dr. White was talking about in terms of the whole Islamic world is putting their whole faith on 40 words, the enormity and the message of the Prophet Muhammad compels the Muslims to believe anything else to be in the text of Quran. That is my first point. And second is that, as you know, if something's recorded in the history and historians go and research it, they look for people's testimony recorded, for example, in the records and so forth. Let me give you an example. It wouldn't take more than 30 seconds. For example, around the time of slavery, if people go and research a certain person that was living in a town, and they would see that the person had bought and sold slaves, or had bought slaves, or the fact that they would go and research the historical evidence of where the slaves were coming and they were being auctioned and who was buying it. And if they find the person's name in the record, the whole history and even people as eyewitnesses would testify the person was dealing in buying and selling slaves. However, let's say there's a twist in the story and the person was buying the slaves and he was absolutely objecting to slavery and then going and seeing them without telling anybody because he didn't want to get into trouble. The whole history would record him as a slave trader. Everybody that knew him possibly would testify and would be recorded in history. But that does not make the person in reality be, a slave trader. My example, the reason I say that, even though it's vague and the Quran does not go into any explanation, it says that it appeared unto him that they did this act, it just leaves it as the fact that God promised Jesus, I will defeat you, I will cleanse you from those who reject it, and I will ascend you toward me. So therefore, my only interpretation of that could be is the fact that the only scenario I can see that would satisfy everything would be the fact that the account of after resurrection was not as detailed as it was written, for example, possibly, and the fact that Jesus could have God could have taken Jesus' life in Roman custody